Hey, Jeepers. Welcome to On the Trail with Kevin and Scott video. This is a very special video that we've promised you in our podcasts, and we have a guest here, both the guest and the driver. I'm Kevin, the engineer.
I'm Scott. I'm the slapstick parts guy that now has instructions. Those of you on video can see I have instructions now, and as we always share, while we will share what worked for us and well as what didn't, remember it's up to you to do what you want to your Jeep. So
yeah, and Scott's sitting in the sun, so he's looking all squinty and whatnot.
Yeah.
Between us is the actual guest, and this is Bob. Bob is the owner of the mystical LS swapped YJ that we've talked about in probably 5 or 6 episodes of the show.
Oh, yeah.
We've gotten a lot of requests from everybody. We want to see the Jeep. And Bob has finally agreed to come in, and we're going to do a little interview with him. Actually, Scott's going to do the interview since I was a participant in the build. And as we go through it, this video, the Jeep's in the background, we will have images of the processes, images of the results, and a bunch of neat information about it should you want to build yourself a LS swapped YJ.
Absolutely.
So, Scott, I'm turning the mics over to you. You're in control now.
Well, yeah, that's
These people
wonderful.
belt your seat.
Yeah.
Take a safe, stay a safe distance away from the TV monitor.
Please wait till the show and/or video comes to a complete stop. Keep all hands and arms in the vehicle at the times while the show is in motion. Shouldn't we call it In the Yard with Kevin, Scott, and Bob and the YJ? Because
I don't see a yard. Do you see a yard?
Well,
I see woods in the background.
Oh, the magic. What you don't see behind us is a KFC and a McDonald's, kind of like the pyramids, you know. But anyway.
No, not quite. But yes, we are at one of our haciendas that borders the woodlands. So.
Yes. Yeah. But so again, it's the sounds of nature, like the pressure washer and everything else. So, but while we will go on with this, I'm just wanted to say thank you for having you and the Jeep on the show.
Oh, it's great.
Because again, a lot of emails, 1,000 questions usually. But the one thing I wanted to kind of ask, I'm going to go off script for real quickly. It might be in here if I'm jumping ahead.
No, you're fine.
So everyone always has the keyboard warriors are, well, why did you choose an LS compared to, like, let's say a diesel motor or something, or just turbocharging an inline 6? Why did you want the LS? Why did you want the V8?
A couple of reasons. One, the R28 is what I looked at, the Cummins, and we're looking at $9,000, for the motor itself.
Right.
Novak, they've been around for over 50 years putting, motors in Jeeps, and I do like the LS. I think I'm not a big Chevy fan, but the LS motor is probably one of the most, You
got to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, one of the most swapped in packages that's in the modern market today.
Yeah, that's kind of like the old joke. Everyone puts a Cummins diesel out of a Dodge truck and something else, and why? Because the truck around it rotted.
Yeah.
Commence Dodge hate mail, and I'm a Mopar guy, and I'm the one saying that. So, but just out of curiosity, though, how did you get into Jeeps? I mean, why a Jeep? Because that's one of our first shows. Was it the mystique of the top off and getting rained on and the sunburn on your head, or? What?
I wasn't a big Jeep guy. Now, I liked four-wheeling. I was stationed out in Nevada and Las Vegas, and I had a Nissan 4x4.
Okay.
We used to go up in the mountains and see how far we can get up in the snow and over top. But I think back then, there was a CJ.
Right.
And one guy had a CJ, Ford Bronco, full-size, Toyota trucks, Nissan trucks. It was just a conglomeration of people, and I liked the four-wheeling. It was a lot of fun.
Cool.
And I did a little bit of that in the Philippines when I was stationed over there. And I've always had a four-wheel drive truck. So what I did was, my buddy actually, he inherited a 95 YJ. And it was fun. I liked it. I liked the simplicity of the Jeep. I thought it would be a lot simpler to build and put together. So, I found one over in basically this Deltona area. DeLand, I think it was. DeLand, actually.
DeLand. Okay.
Probably paid a little bit too much for it. It was a little rough, Maryland Jeep. But that's where I started.
Well seasoned with salt.
Yeah.
Well, that's a question. It was a Maryland Jeep. Was there a crab cake or something like that in the glove box? I need to know. Oh wait, is it lobster? I can't.
No, that's Maine. It would be more of the
Okay.
lobster.
Then I
You
can't
were
make
correct.
the-
The blue crab or bluefin crab cakes are from Maryland.
Okay, I got something right. 'Cause it was either that or a khakis joke. You know, did it come with khakis or khakis? You know, but sorry.
Sorry.
That's gonna. Please send all your hate mail to attention Kevin at On the Trail.
Yeah.
So you know, as you said, as purchased in the condition. I mean, obviously, you know, you said it was a little salty. You know, I mean, like, how long have you had the Jeep?
A little over 4 years now.
4
It
years?
took 4 years for me to get it like this.
Okay, now did you do what was the first thing you purchased besides a tank of gas?
Was probably the steering. When I drove it home, you know, the steering wheel was, you know, it's one of these numbers where you're trying to keep it straight going down the road.
It's kind of like doing a slalom in a battleship. You know?
Exactly.
It ain't happening.
Yeah, and then I had a lift kit put on it. One of the local off-road shops put a slip yoke eliminator in it for me. That one I did not do myself. I put 2.5-inch super lift on it and some 32-ish tires with the same type of rim that I've got right now.
I got you.
And I drove it around like that with the 4-cylinder and 5-speed.
Yep, I was going to ask you, was it 4-cylinder or
Yeah,
6-cylinder?
4-cylinder. Couldn't get out of its own way.
Okay, so they were tired squirrels, not angry squirrels.
Yeah, because everyone's always said that, you know. But if you would have, if I wish I still had my YJ. If people would have to drive my YJ, you'd be like, well, this isn't so bad. Again, 488 geared. Again, it would run out of lungs on the highway real quickly. But you know, up to 55, it was sporty.
I couldn't even go into 5th gear. I had to stay in 4th gear most of the time,
Wow.
unless I was going downhill.
Gotcha. Well, before I changed up my engine, I had so much bad blow by. Literally, I was killing every mosquito when I went to work.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of those cars you see going down the road with white smoke billowing out of it, and it's like,
Actually, the motor ran pretty good. I mean, I changed all the sensors and did everything to it, but the motor ran pretty good. Started right up. Just did some maintenance to the motor just to keep it running good, and other than that, I just drove it like that.
Now, you said you had the battleship steering. So, other than the battleship steering, what were your other first challenges you had?
I didn't like. I wanted the axles were Dana 30s and 35s,
Right.
and you know I heard such bad things about them. But would I really break them with a 4-cylinder? I kind of doubt it. But I don't know. That was just the start. I knew I wanted to buy it and modify it, and that's what I started doing. So the power and the steering that was the main thing.
And power steering.
Yes, it did have power steering.
Well, again, that's one of the things Kevin and I talk about is, and we talked a little bit before the show, is that, you know, when you start building things, it's like, you know, when you go, again, you know, on the internet, people say, you know, you need, you know, the 42-inch stickies,
Right.
you know, the Dana 80s and the supercharged nitroglycerin V8s and stuff like that. And, you know, I've shared that video many times on the Facebook page of that guy out there in Moab with the, what was that?
The M38 with the regular unidirectional tires from the military, the 4-cylinder and the Borg Warner T case in it, and just kind of puttering along and going places everybody else was breaking axles and smoking things.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, kids, you wheel with what you have. Okay. So, sorry, trying not to trip on my soapbox on the way out. So when you bought it, obviously you had the 4-cylinder. Now, what were your initial plans? Like, what were the things you wanted to do? What was your dream build?
I wanted to build a good trail rig.
Okay.
You know, something that if I do get into a little trouble, I want to be able to get out of it. It's not a rock crawler. It's, you know, I just want something that, you know, I can do some hills, I can do some trails. If I get into something tight, hopefully it'll get through it.
And you also wanted the heavy right foot action.
Yeah, a little bit.
Let's just be honest. And the cool thing is when he started up earlier, it's a sleeper. Like these two right here are kindred spirits because there's some burble behind that exhaust, but I can definitely tell if I was behind you, I'd be like, no, that's not a 4-cylinder.
No. But it is hard to keep your foot out of it now. It really is.
Well, especially like I passed a 18-wheeler on the way here, and I goosed it, and rev limiter went up, and went, oh, there went $9.
Yeah.
So, anyways, but you know, obviously, you know, the 4-cylinder is anemic, like we talked about. What was one of your main reasons for, you know, besides the desire, what was your main reason to choose a powertrain swap compared to, you know, just, you know, getting another Jeep? Because a lot of people say, well, just sell it and get a new vehicle or whatever.
Or power adders, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually tried everything. I even got the throttle body for
Oh, that's right.
a 6-cylinder, and tried that. And I tried the new jets or the new injectors.
Did you do the firepower ignition?
I did not.
I did that.
It did. So
did
all
that
of
work
that, I put all that in there, and it ran horrible. It was terrible. And I took it all out, And I says, all right, I got to do something with this thing. And that's when I started doing my research and looked on the internet, watched a lot of YouTubes.
So you basically, as Kevin and I say, you did your research.
Yes.
Cool. So I can hear the typing now with this question. So you decided to go with a kit.
Yes, I did.
Now, there are, again, people out there that say you can do it for like, $3,000 with an old running Oldsmobile. Why did you? What made you decide to do the Novak kit? Obviously you did a lot of research and you saw that people. I'm sure there was videos on there about getting that junkyard core and rebuilding it and doing all that kind of stuff. Clearly, you have some skill. Why? What was your whole choice behind?
I didn't want to go through rebuilding a motor. I've never rebuilt a motor. Now, I've done heads and head gaskets and stuff like that, though. Never rebuilt a motor. And I do have a friend south of here that's his business. He does rebuild motors, but that's not cheap either.
No.
And you don't know what you're getting from a junkyard. Maybe good, maybe not that good. So I decided to get a rebuilt one from Novak. I did my research. Like I said, they've been doing it for years and years. The simplicity of the kit is, and Kevin will tell you, he did one of these in a CJ, and sometimes the cost of this and that, and I needed this. Novak did all that for you.
They did.
And Kevin will tell you, it's almost, you're looking at probably within a few dollars of.
It really ends up, the 6.0 cost more than the Novak kit by the time it was done to make it a drivable rig. That's just, people can argue and type the nasty emails that they want, but the bits and pieces of doing a complete a la carte junkyard build ran in more than what Novak charges for a package deal, by a significant amount.
No one ever thinks of that brother and sister that show up when you do a project. That's Anita and Murphy. Like, I need that.
Yep.
I needed
And
this.
Murphy's Law.
I needed that. And Murphy. So if you can keep those two troublemakers from being out of your build as much as possible, that's kind of important because, again, when sometimes when I get at work, I'll get a repower situation. And it won't even come with engine gaskets.
Oh.
It won't even come with a master gasket kit. So now all of a sudden, you've priced out that engine of, $5,000 to the customer. Oh yeah, now we need coolant, we need oil, we need a filter, we need this, we need that. Next thing you know, that's another $5,000 on top of that. So that's why they always say, if you're going to plan an engine swap, if you think it's going to cost $7,000, add another $7,000.
Yeah.
Because the Anitas will get you. They'll get you good. And so you went with the Novak kit. Now, obviously you chose it for those reasons, but aside from the Novak kit, anything else you wanted to do while you had the Jeep down? Because I know you talked a little bit about when the engine was out, you did some cleaning up and.
Oh, absolutely. I completely. Well, for one thing, it was a rust bucket. I had to do a lot of rust repair, floor, some panels on the side, fenders, tailgate. Those were all replaced. So when I pulled the motor out, which actually came out fairly easy, took it up to Ron's shop, Red Scorpion Fabworks, and he let me do a lot of the stuff there. So I pulled the motor, I took it back home. Luckily I have a tow bar, so I was able to tow it back and forth. And then I started cutting the motor mounts out and cleaning up the frame and cleaning up the back of the firewall because it was still the original teal type color of the Jeep.
Right.
So once I got all that done, and then I took it back to Ron's shop, and then we measured the motor mounts, and Novak said, I believe it was 29 1/8, and a lot of people test fit them. Yeah, we didn't test fit it. We just burned them in at 29 1/8. I was hoping they knew what they were doing, and sure enough, it.
And I'm going to comment, folks, that was so close that the transfer case, which has the actual transmission mount on it, dropped into the original holes on the skid plate.
Yep.
We didn't even have to drill new holes.
Yeah, and even then, when you talked about the bodywork, Kevin showed me pictures right here underneath the Jeep with the front.
And we'll put them up on the screen.
Yep, that you repaired all that rust and the rest of the other stuff you did. I saw the pictures of where you burned in the motor mounts and everything else. So if you don't mind, because the kit, and I think Kevin even had, do we have pictures of the complete kit
Yes.
in the box?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, at the time of this being recorded, which is in 2022, how much roundabout was the price of the?
The whole kit was, I think it was right around $14,000.
Okay.
That was shipped.
That was shipped.
Yep.
Okay.
Everything done. I'm talking wire harness cut. What it needs 6 wires.
And we needed 6 wires to make it fire.
Yep, 6 wires.
And they even included the adapter to the transfer case, the motor mounts, the alternator. You know, it really
Everything.
was.
It was
almost turnkey.
almost turnkey.
as close as you can get when doing a brand.
Digital Dakota converter.
Yeah, the converter for the tachometer.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that when talking with Kevin, and Kevin has talked about it on the show, is that, you know, you can, a lot of the research and hard work is already done for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that kind of, it actually, like for me, and again, come on. Show 138, my lift is still in the storage unit. But so the biggest problem for me is the fear of jumping into a big, huge, because you're like, that's an open heart swap. That you're going to dive deep into that. And if half the research is done for you, the instructions are there, you know, the planning that you already did, that should take a lot of the fear and give you that confidence to tackle that. Because that is a major, you're not just bolting on something.
Oh, I was still scared.
Yeah, but you know what?
Yeah.
We're missing one other thing that Novak gives.
What's that?
And it's completely intangible.
Yes.
And it's 1-800-NOVAC.
Yeah.
And they got on the phone. Bob could call in, hand the phone to me. They would talk to me as we were doing connections and share their knowledge and experience from a whole business in conversions.
Nice.
And didn't cost him a penny extra for that.
Kudos to Jeff at Novak.
Yeah.
And when you called, they transferred you to the wire guy. You said,
Yep.
I think one of your questions was, is it run off the ground or was it run off of 12 volts? Something simple like that. The computer reflashed. Everything was done. And a beautiful crate. Everything labeled.
It really was.
Radiator,
We'll put a picture
fans,
up here again.
You know, everything rebuilt. All the new radiator and fans was already put together.
Well, that's one of the things when I looked under the hood of the Jeep is from the hardware. You know, if you didn't clean the hardware, you replaced it with new hardware. I mean, it looks as close to a new Jeep. But any special planning for tools, work areas, or processes you weren't comfortable doing yourself? Did you that's when you brought in Kevin, and obviously you called 1-800-NOVAC.
Right.
But for the most part, you know, that obviously took some planning too, didn't it?
Two things that I was worried about. One was wiring. And Ron introduced me to Kevin because he did the wiring on the CJ when they put the Chevy motor in it. And he said, sure. And he already knew what he was doing with the wiring. I mean, I would have struggled. I would have probably been able to get it done with a little help, but it wouldn't have been as perfect as how he did it and neat looking. And he cut out wiring, which I would have done. I would not have done. That was not needed anymore.
Right.
I mean, just got rid of.
And folks, that's what I was talking about on the shows, is having the wiring diagram, both from Novak and the one from this year YJ. We were able to go, well, that went with the 4-cylinder ignition, that went with the 4-cylinder, you know, this and that, and we took that out rather than leaving a rat's nest, which is a potential spot for future problems.
Yeah.
Contrary to Bob's humbleness, I expect I probably could have handled him and given him a half an hour's education on how to use the wiring diagram, and he would have been fine because he took off with it and ran with it. And, you know, his attention to detail, you know, I appreciate the compliment on the wiring, but when I see what you did with the rest of the work, yeah, you'd have been fine on the wiring. You may have worked a little slower, but you would have been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wiring I was nervous about, and believe it or not, the shifter. It came with the 4-wheel drive shifter. It's their kit, their design on that. But picking a shifter, I could have picked several. I picked a low car. I was worried about mounting it.
That's a transmission, folks, a transmission shifter.
Yeah, the transmission shifter. I was reading on the internet, blogs. I wish I had a longer cable. I wish, this, that. And I'm like, oh, geez. So I ordered the one that was for the transmission that came with this was the 4L60E. And the cable was just the right size. I mean, it just came right out of the shifter, wrapped around the transfer case, and went right in. Probably one of the hardest things about that, Kevin came over and actually helped me adjust it. I had it
making sure park was park.
Yeah.
That's kind of important.
Yeah.
It was just having trouble finding the low gears, but actually, come to find out, a lot of that was the shifter itself. I just didn't know how to use the shifter. You don't use the button for the first and second, but there's a button on the top to use for pretty much everything else.
It's got an interesting gate structure on the low car shifter, folks.
Yeah.
And if you ever have one, you know what we're talking about.
We got a little ahead of ourselves. I did want to ask you this: when you went to place the order from Novak, Now, did you say, hey, this is what it's going in, this is what I want? Was that pretty easy to go in? Did they talk you through? Did they ask questions?
Yes, he did. And believe it or not, this is what sold me also. Jeff, that I talked to, had a YJ with an LS in it.
Okay.
Okay, so...
And that plays into later questions.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, it was either an LS or a 350 that he did, but he had a YJ that he had a Chevy motor in it.
The thing I think is interesting, being a parts guy, because like sometimes, and again, this can happen, and again, it is a fear point for me is, okay, I've ordered my engine here, I got to order the radiator from over here, I got to order this from over here, this, and then all of a sudden, it's that one box you forgot at the house, and you're trying to put all this together, and next thing you know, you're missing it. So now when this Novak kit came, like you said, everything was in the one crate.
We didn't have to do anything. Well, we did hoses.
Yeah.
Mainly the hoses to hook up, and that was a nightmare. But
And when he says a nightmare, it's just because if you've ever walked into a parts department, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, and looked at the rack of hoses and going, well, I need this shape, and it goes from here to here, and the guys look at you and go, welcome behind the counter. Go pick a hose.
See, that's a good parts store.
Yeah.
That's what I'd always do. I'm like, okay, obviously, let's just go take a look and let's see what you got. And we would do that. It's.
And I guess part of it, let me ad lib, was part of the challenge was the fact that neither Bob nor I wanted to plumb it up with crinkle hose.
no.
No, I hate that flex hose.
Yeah.
But the thing too is like a lot of people go, well, what's the engine? What's kind of car? No, you don't understand. I'm doing something custom, one off.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can't help you. Well, yeah, you can. You just walk there. Like the numbering on the belt, the 95 K6.
Yeah.
That's a 95-inch belt. K is 6 ribs. So you just run a piece of tape and go and measure it. Okay, I need a 97-inch belt. Okay, well, how do you have room in your tensioner? Because I got a 95-inch belt, K5. That's good parts knowledge, or saying, hey, let me take you back there. Let's go look and see what we got. So I'm glad at least they were able to do that for you.
Oh yeah, they were able to help. And
I made some mistakes. I ran the hose across the top of the radiator. Oh, that's perfect. It fits really good. I didn't realize we didn't put the intake system in. It's like,
we had nowhere to put the intake on.
Yeah, the intake wasn't good. It's like, all that work finding a hose, and so basically then I had to take that hose off. I had to put the intake on. Now I got to find a hose that comes up, routes over the intake, and back down into the radiator.
And which we found out later is actually how GM did it in most other vehicles.
Nice.
You have this hose comes out of a radiator and then does this climb the mountain and go down the mountain.
Yeah.
Now, did you install it right away? Because I know you said you did some body work and do all that. Did you plan it out? Did you basically did you store the kit for a little bit, or was this like, I'm going to do this in a weekend or 6 months, or?
I didn't there was no real plan. I did order the kit. The kit came in. I had nowhere to store it. Luckily, I met Shane from Drive Shaft Specialist.
Okay.
He allowed me to store it there because Ron had the shop there before he moved into his other shop. So it was very nice of him to let me store it. We even uncrated it. He took pictures. We looked at the wire harness, everything, and then I decided, what, I got to get this done.
Yeah.
So I pulled it up to Ron's. I said, Ron's time, let's pull this motor, and he had some spare time. I helped Ron at the shop quite a bit, and he allowed me to bring the Jeep in. It sat there for a week. We had it in and out in a week running. Actually, we had it running in, I think the motor was in. We started at 9 o'clock in the morning. Was it 9:30, 10 o'clock the motor was in?
Yeah.
And by Wednesday morning,
it was fired.
It was fired up.
All right, I got it. I want to make sure I don't get too much. So when you did your old powertrain, what was that like?
The old powertrain?
Yeah.
It came out, if that's what you mean. Did it come out easy? It came out fine, ripping the wires.
It's kind of fun how therapeutic it is taking things out. Yeah. And then if you're anything like me, you go, oh, I forgot to make notes, and I forgot to do this. And
yeah, everything was replaced. So, the neat thing about it is I got basically 2 different circuits in the Jeep now.
Yeah.
I've got a motor circuit that just applies to the motor only, and then I've got your fuse box over here for fuel pump and turn signals and lights and stuff like that. So it's completely separate.
And that Novak did what we also did on the CJ5.
Oh.
They provided a separate fuse and relay box for the engine.
Yep.
Which makes it very simple to connect.
So it's almost like a standalone in a way.
Yeah. It's very much a standalone. It's the go home and the play boxes. If you bust the play box, you can still go home.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, it's a quick question because you talked about the one challenge with the other hose, with the intake. Any other change, like exhaust manifolds? Any surprises that came up that was a challenge that you were able to overcome? Besides that,
the only thing, putting the motor in went very smooth. We did have to remove the passenger side header.
Okay.
By the way, it did come with ceramic headers.
Nice.
Nice drop down, straight ceramic headers. Which cleared everything just fine, which I've watched some YouTubes that whatever header they had did not clear the motor mounts, and they either had to adjust things or notch things, which I didn't have to do any of that here. So we removed the header, the motor went in, Tommy helped me put the header back on, went smooth. I took it to a local exhaust shop that I had them. I told them what I wanted. They've even supplied the down, because they use those band clamps, I think it was, supplied the
leader pieces of pipe that come off of the headers.
Nice.
Came with the Novak kit, ready for fitting up to, what were they, 2 1/4, 2.5?
2.5.
2.5 inch. So it's got a pretty healthy exhaust system.
So they routed the exhaust like I wanted because I looked at others, how they did theirs, and they routed them down around the front of the oil pan.
Okay.
And then joined up with the other one. It's not what I expected. He just did some mandrel bent pipe.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have had the kit done where it's all stainless smooth and TIG welded and all that, but that's not what I got. I mean, could I change that later on in the future? Yeah, I can. Does this work fine? It does.
Okay.
Do I need the fancy stuff? I want to get it out in the woods and get it dirty.
Yeah, but every now and then you want what you want.
Yeah.
The heart wants what the heart wants. Like, I really want to get my lift installed. So, speaking of challenges, Kevin, you mentioned something about the transmission case or the T case mounted up perfectly in the same holes. Even though you did the correct measurements and do all that. So that was a nice positive. Any other positive that you found from the installation that went smoothly and beyond your expectations?
We had to rip the transfer case apart a couple. I upgraded the transfer case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, speaking of let's go to the transmission. I ordered. I think Novak had 3 different levels of transmissions.
Okay.
Okay. You had a 20 or 2001, a 2200, and a 2400. I'm estimating what it was then. So I picked the medium, which it was beefed up 4L60. What they did to it, so it'd be able to handle the power, which it's not putting out that much power.
That ain't half bad, but
No.
yeah, I know what you're saying. It's not a supercharged or nitrous blown.
It's not a nitromethane
I
funny car.
believe we're at 244 foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah.
And 220 horsepower.
Yeah, but
That's
folks, that's at the rear wheels,
with these
which
35s.
is so that's significantly less than what the crank's putting out. He's over 3 talking to the tuner, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Otherwise, from my perspective, electrically, just a few questions with the Novak kit, and they were unusual because I was trying to do the trick that we did, which we'll talk about, but we've talked about on the show, of making the Jeep dash work with the LS computer system and sensor systems. And so I had weird offbeat questions like, is this a switched power or switched ground? Is signal on a ground side? Is it on the power side? And hats off to Novak. They were willing to explain all of that.
Nice.
Probably the single biggest challenge from my perspective in the wiring world was his speedometer.
Oh, yeah.
And it boils down to, folks, that the LS has an internal drive for an electronic speedometer through the computer system, which actually works. The computer knows how fast you're going. They set the gear ratios and that at Novak. And that was well. But we wanted the electromechanical dash that's in this year YJ to work. And really wasn't going to be between the two. And we ended up utilizing existing Jeep parts that we were able to salvage and a few other pieces. And then the transponder that we had to adjust the signal to bring that dash function to life. So that was more of not a necessity, but a luxury, because we wanted to do something that everybody said you couldn't do, and that was to LS swap a Jeep, a YJ Jeep, and keep the dash stock.
Yep. All the gauges work tremendous.
Idiot lights work.
Yep.
Well, since we're a good segue, by the way, since we're on the different systems, cooling system. Any issues with cooling?
No, the radiator. It's a custom built radiator. Here's the neat thing what Novak did. And I'm not trying to put plugs out there for Novak, but they thought of everything. I mean, they've been doing this for a while. The cooling system, it was kind of neat that we got the analog gauge to work because all they did was provide a port on the head that I was able to screw my YJ temperature sensor into.
Nice.
And run the original YJ temperature wire to the gauge. So
and the other side head had the port that ran to the LS computer.
Yeah. So it's reading too. The computer's reading the temperature and your gauge is reading the temperature.
See, and that's makes it easier, doesn't it?
It does.
And they did the exact same thing with the oil. They put a little adapter on the oil filter mount that the oil sensor off the YJ screwed right into their hole and went right through the wire. And basically, I think you did have to disconnect it and reconnect it just to...
Yeah. To get it through the network properly. But yeah, they really did provide a lot of flexibility in how they prepped the engine kit. You could have easily left the plug-in and run just digital system off of it, and converted the dash like we did on Shane's YJ, but you don't have to. No. You can work with both systems. And that's really the secret here is that somebody thought this through up front.
Yeah, well, you're talking about the oiling system because that's, obviously the fueling system. Same fuel. You run the YJ fuel pump in there, and you have to change something out.
The YJ, he told me it would work, and it did. Yeah. The YJ, I believe, puts out 58 psi.
No, actually, it's 47 on the YJ pump, and they didn't go to 58 until the second generation TJ. But 47, which is from the YJs, as soon as they put electric fuel pumps in them. The earlier ones, of course, were mechanical. Up to, I'm going to think it's 2000 in the TJs is a 47 PSI pump system, which is admittedly on the low end of an LS, but according to the tuner guy we went to, he was not showing any fuel starvation issues.
And, one of my worries when you were talking about that just reminded me, I was worried about the fuel pump.
Okay.
I didn't know if the fuel pump was going to push on the pressure. It did. I didn't have to change anything on the fuel pump. Novak kit came down with 2 fuel lines, one with a filter on it and one that was an intake and one return. And I put double clamps on it just to make sure everything was good. It clamped it right to the existing
fuel supply lines and return lines.
And boom, and it's got a fuel pressure regulator up there. So if it was over pressure, it regulates it. That was super simple.
Kevin? Bob? I need an adult. I think I forgot to flip the CD or the DVD. Maybe it needs quarters. Maybe side 2? Oh man, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. You guys haven't seen a Kevin or a Bob around here, have you? Okay, let's just give it a second. Maybe check side 2 or take 2. Thanks for watching. I'm learning out of words because I'm panicking. Kevin! Okay, I flipped the DVD. I put quarters in the machine. I tripped over a cord, fixed it with a zip tie. Can we pick this back up and take 2? Or side 2? Or take 2? Or take 3? Or let me take a minute to catch my breath. See you on the other side.
Hey folks, no worries, got calmed down. We're gonna pick this up in episode 2 of this video. So look out for it as soon as it's up. You can watch the rest of the story. Bye.
Wait for me, wait for me. There you are. Wait for me, hold on, I'm coming.